think someone's forgetting their technique.
Today we're going to find out what happens when you don't go climbing for 4 months. This should be fun. We just barely finished the orientation. I got tested on an auto belay. My first time being tested on an auto belay. Now we're going to go boulder. There are a lot of things that you can take from this video just from watching me climb this versus what I was climbing a few months ago. But to keep things simple, we're just going to focus on a couple of things that I noticed. We're climbing at Alchemy Climbing, which is really kind of cool. It used to be an old theater. They have bouldering, rope climbing, and even some auto belays, so maybe we'll do that. First thing that I probably noticed was the foundational movement of same hand, same foot. If you're not familiar with that, that is when you move your foot before you move your hand, so you have the support you need for each movement. And I was not doing that here in the beginning of my climbing. My second route climbing, I really tried to move my hand before my feet, but I still made the same mistake over and over again. So it's interesting how I can still feel more comfortable. I'm definitely using my legs more than a beginner would, but that foundational movement where I was naturally moving my foot before my hand, it's no longer natural, and I have to think about it a little bit more. Coming down's always harder. Now I finally started getting a little bit smarter and looking at the route before I hopped on. This is a theme for today, is I only did route reading a couple of times before I hopped on, and it makes a big difference. So if you're getting back into the gym, remember to read the route before you start moving onto it so you don't get lost. Also, just a little high five to myself here for doing a dynamic movement so early on in the session. I'm not a dynamic climber even when I am training and at my peak, so I was pretty proud of myself. I was feeling a lot more comfortable with doing reaches, my hips twisting into the wall before I move on. I was getting nervous though, and I think if it weren't for me filming this with you guys, I may have hopped down, but I just felt like I needed to be able to flash a V3. Thank you guys for being the pressure I needed to keep going. This is when I really started testing my hips, my hip flexibility. I started noticing some stiffness, so I thought maybe I'd stretch out on this route, and I did stretch out, but I also realized I didn't practice hip mobility or hip strength while I wasn't climbing, and so I lost it. If I remember right, that was a V3 to V4 route, and it felt pointless to me. It felt hopeless, honestly. This route's a V4 to a V5, something that would have totally been in my wheelhouse a few months ago, but as you can see, I can hardly get past the first move, let alone the second. Just for the fun of it, we decided to do a dynamic climb, and like I mentioned earlier, I'm not a dynamic climber, so even if I was at my prime, this is probably what that would look like. At this point in the session, I had failed on so many climbs that I decided I wanted to do something that looked a little bit more simple. I hopped right on, and no, I did not read the route before getting on, which will become important in just a moment. For example, right here, I just saw the small hold out on the volume. I did not see the giant hold that I'm about to go to. Luckily, Meg pointed it out to me, otherwise I would have made this much harder than it needed to be. Like right now, I definitely tried making it harder.
You have that little hold low closer to you.
What? When you use the holds that are provided, it's so much easier.
Someone's forgetting their technique.
Fear and fatigue really started setting in right here. I felt like I was stuck at the top of the climb. And, if it weren't for Meg and me being desperate to get down, probably still be up there today. Another key thing that I noticed while climbing for my first time in a few months was my lack of core stability and being able to hold my body into the wall. I think I got to the point when I was climbing where I could make moves like this relatively easy, so that just shows you how quickly you can lose that core strength if you're not using it the way you need to use it in climbing. Try some auto belaying. Let's go. At this point, I'm feeling pretty done, but I had already decided when I did the auto belay test that I was going to get on some long routes. I don't know what I thought I was doing on these big walls. This is a great indication of showing you where my lack of technique is, because look at me pull my body up with my arms. I'm like doing pull-ups. Ideally, you push off with your feet and you just use your hands and arms for balance as needed. But I was doing pull-ups mostly. Now, if I was using my legs properly, I probably would have had the strength to hold on, even though those holds were super greasy. Found another 10C. It looked kind of easy for the grade, so I decided to give it a try. I focused quite a bit more on this route, getting my feet in the right place and using my legs instead of my hands. It helped a lot, except remember earlier how I mentioned my core was kind of tired and I wasn't as strong as I used to be? Well, you kind of need that to hold onto the wall. After being defeated quite a few times, I decided to try an easier route. This is something I'd totally recommend when you're getting back into the climbing gym. Don't go on hard routes, just climb on the easy stuff and build your confidence that way. Though I must say, if you are afraid of heights and you're afraid of falling, like I am, consider doing this not on auto belay, because on this auto belay I was moving up so quickly that I was hearing this noise, this like ricketing noise, and it sounded sketchy. So instead of being let down like a sane person would, I decided to down climb. Yep, when fear comes in, you magically have the energy to down climb instead of just letting yourself down on the auto belay. It was probably perfectly safe for me to let go, but I did not feel that way, so I didn't do it. This is going to be the last route of my session, but it is an important route. To point out one thing, no matter how much technique you've been able to maintain, and no matter how many crunches you've done, you're probably going to have the same problem I had right here. Can you guess what it is? Now, if you didn't see it the first time, here's me getting back on the climb and trying again. Let's see if you can see it this time. Okay, if you said it was my hip strength or my hip flexibility, good job. No, mentioned that earlier in the video already. It is endurance. When you stop climbing for a while, the endurance you've built up with both your grip, your skin, for example, your muscles, everything it is really challenging to maintain that endurance. And I think no matter what I did at home, say I was doing grip training at home or I was doing crunches or whatever, I think I would still struggle with endurance. I really like these shoes for bouldering. When I go climbing on ropes or like longer routes, I usually do like a neutral shoe, and this is a moderate shoe. So for bouldering, I loved it. There's really good rubber, has all the stuff that I love about the Mad Rock drones in my previous shoes, but maybe a little bit better. There's also this little thing when you stick your foot in, you can feel it. It feels like a cushion, but it's forcing your toes into a point. Those are pretty awesome too. So thank you, Mad Rock, for sending these to me. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. Please leave a comment, maybe say made it, and add a little something about what you recommend to people who are getting back into climbing for the first time. Hopefully we can scrounge up some really good tips in the comments below. If not, that's fine. Maybe just include a comment on what you'd like to see next on the channel. Thanks guys for watching. Love ya. Coming down is harder than going up.